When I first moved in with Jake, I told myself nothing would ever happen between us. He was straight. Or, at least, that's what he said with a confident smirk the day we signed the lease together. He was the kind of guy who could charm the hell out of anyone. Tall, rugged jawline, and that permanently tousled hair that looked like it had been styled by lazy gods. We were both juniors, both broke, and the off-campus two-bedroom was cheap and close to class. It just made sense. But from day one, Jake walked around like a living question mark. Shirtless almost always, towel barely hanging on when he walked from the shower. He had a way of looking at me that didn't match the straight guy label. A second too long. A glance that started as innocent and landed somewhere else entirely. I tried not to read into it. I really did. But I'm gay and not blind. I noticed things, like how he never mentioned a girlfriend, or how he'd get weirdly defensive when people asked about his type, or how he let our hands brush while passing the remote, and never pulled away fast enough. Still, I kept my distance. I knew the dangers of falling for a straight guy. Especially one you live with. I wasn't about to become another sad story in someone else's, I was just drunk memory. But the nights were the hardest, not because he did anything, not really, but because he was there. Every evening we'd end up on the couch, watching something dumb, sharing a six-pack, laughing too loud. Sometimes he'd fall asleep right there beside me, head tilted back, lips slightly parted, chest rising and falling under that damn gray hoodie he always wore. And sometimes, when I was sure he was asleep, I'd let myself look. Just for a moment. There was tension building between us, coiled tight and waiting. I could feel it like static in the air. Every joke that landed too close to flirtation, every shoulder bump that lingered, every silence that should have felt normal but didn't. One night, after a few beers, Jake leaned against the kitchen counter, eyes glassy but focused. "You ever wonder what it's like?" he asked. I blinked. What's like?" His lips curved into that half-smile. "Being with a guy." He said it like a joke, but his voice caught at the end. Something in his eyes dared me to answer. I didn't. I just stared at him, heartbeat loud in my ears, unsure if this was a fantasy finally inching toward reality, or the beginning of a very complicated mistake. He didn't wait for a reply. Just finished his drink and walked past me to his room, brushing his shoulder against mine. That night I barely slept, and I wasn't sure if I wanted him to cross that line, or if I was terrified he already had. It started with a thunderstorm, the kind that shakes old windows and hums in your bones. I was already in bed, half awake, scrolling my phone to drown out the rain. The apartment felt unusually quiet, even though Jake was just a wall away. He hadn't said much that evening, just a few distracted grunts over dinner and a quick night before disappearing into his room. I assumed he was tired. Or maybe just distant like he'd been for a few days. Still, I didn't expect the soft knock on my door around midnight. I didn't answer right away. Then the door creaked open. Jake stood there shirtless, in boxers, rubbing the back of his neck like he'd done something wrong. His hair was a mess, lips slightly parted. "You awake?" he asked, voice low. I sat up slowly. "Yeah." He stepped inside without waiting, shut the door behind him. His eyes scanned the room, then landed on me. "Can I sleep here tonight?" he mumbled. "Storm's messing with my head." It was a lie. We both knew it. But I nodded anyway, scooting over. My pulse was a drumline in my throat. Jake climbed in beside me like it was nothing. Like this was normal. The mattress dipped with his weight, and for a few moments we just lay there, silently, pretending we were only roommates again. But then he turned on his side, his face inches from mine. His breath smelled like mint and something deeper, nerves maybe. "I keep thinking about that question," he whispered. My voice caught. "What question?" He didn't answer. Not with words. Instead, Jake leaned in and kissed me. Soft at first, like he was testing something fragile. Then deeper, hungry. Like he'd been starving for this and didn't even know it. I froze for half a second before kissing him back. His hands found my chest, pulling me closer, our legs tangling beneath the sheet. The heat between us grew reckless, unstoppable. His lips moved to my neck, my shoulder, every kiss burning a mark I knew I'd remember long after this night ended. There was nothing gentle about it, just raw confusion and unspoken desire finally unleashed. I didn't know where the real Jake ended and the version of him I'd imagined began. But I didn't care. For a moment it felt like we were both exactly where we wanted to be. Afterward, he lay there staring at the ceiling, silent. I reached for his hand, but he pulled away. I was drunk, he muttered, eyes fixed on the darkness. You weren't, I replied. I could still taste him on my lips. He didn't say anything, just turned over back to me. And just like that, the room felt colder than it ever had before. The morning after, Jake was already gone when I woke up. His side of the bed was cold, like he'd made sure to leave before I could ask the obvious questions. I lay there staring at the ceiling, body still buzzing from everything we'd done, but my mind was unraveling. What the hell did it mean? Was it real for him, or just a drunken mistake he was desperate to forget? He didn't text, didn't say a word. He came home late that night, headphones in, ignoring me completely. Not even a glance. Days passed in silence. He moved around the apartment like a ghost, present but unreachable. Meanwhile, I was losing sleep, playing that night over and over in my head. Every breath, every moan, every second he made me feel like I was wanted, real. But now? I felt like an embarrassment he was trying to erase. I finally cornered him in the kitchen one night. We need to talk, I said. Jake didn't even look up from the cereal he was pouring. About what? You know what, I snapped. He let out a long breath, leaned against the counter, eyes hard now. It didn't mean anything, Liam. I was drunk. I didn't know what I was doing. I stared at him, stunned. You kissed me first. You pulled me into your bed. He shrugged. Maybe I was curious. I don't know. I just needed to get something out of my system. Something broke in me right then, something quiet but sharp. So I was your experiment, I whispered. Just a quick fix for your curiosity? He didn't answer. And that silence? It told me everything I needed to know. But the worst part? He kept coming back. Late at night, when the lights were off and the world was quiet, Jake would knock on my door again. Not with words or apologies, just touches. His lips on my neck. His hands roaming my skin like he still had the right. I let him. God help me, I let him. Even though I knew about her. Yes, Jake had a girlfriend. Long distance. She'd been away the whole semester, and suddenly, she was flying in next week. Her photo popped up on his phone screen one afternoon, while he was napping next to me, our bodies still tangled from the night before. Her name was Rachel. She had soft eyes and a kind smile. The kind of girl who didn't know her boyfriend was sleeping with his roommate. Jake had crossed a line. But so had I. The guilt was a slow poison, and I could feel it sinking deeper into my chest every day. He had someone. And still, he came back to me. Not because he loved me. Because he couldn't face what that night really meant. And I was the secret he didn't want, but couldn't stay away from. Rachel arrived on a Friday. Jake cleaned the apartment like it mattered, like suddenly the mess meant something. He wore cologne for the first time in weeks, and kept checking his reflection like he was auditioning for the role of perfect boyfriend. I watched him from the kitchen, invisible again. When she walked in, all soft laughter and open arms, Jake lifted her off the floor in a spin. He kissed her with a kind of ease I'd never seen in our moments, like there were no questions, no shame. And yet, while his lips were on hers, his eyes flicked toward me. Just once. Quick. Guilty. Like a twitch he couldn't control. That was the last thread. It snapped clean. The next few nights were a kind of emotional torture. I could hear them through the wall, her giggles, the mattress creaking, muffled moans that didn't belong to me. I buried my head under pillows, but the sound dug into my bones. Jake never acknowledged it. Not a word. Not a glance. Until the night he messaged me. I still think about you. That night. I haven't stopped. I stared at the text, heart pounding, hand trembling. I didn't know what I expected. An apology, maybe. A promise he'd end things with her. Something real. But the next morning, she was still here. Her toothbrush in our bathroom. Her earrings on the counter. Her laugh echoing off the same walls where Jake had once whispered my name. That's when I realized. He wanted both worlds. Her for safety. Me for escape. He didn't love me. He used me to touch a part of himself he was too scared to face. So I packed my things. No drama. No confrontation. Just quiet goodbye energy. I left him a note on the counter, short, raw, final. You touched parts of me I don't know how to take back. But I won't be your secret anymore. I deserve to be chosen, not hidden. Liam. I moved out that afternoon. Took the bus across town to a friend's couch, one bag in my hand and a weight in my chest. Jake never replied. Not to the note. Not to my text. It was like I'd vanished from the chapter he didn't want to reread. But sometimes, I still think about him. About how his hand fit against my chest. About the way he said my name that one night like it was the only truth he had. I wonder if he still lies awake, with her beside him, thinking about the boy he once pulled into his bed, and what it meant. Maybe I was a mistake to him. But to me? He was the moment I stopped mistaking lust for love, and silence for safety.